The first thing I want to talk about is the place value chart. When I think of the place value chart, the first thing I do is I get a picture in my head just like this with my hundreds, my tens, and my ones place. This is what the place value chart looks like. On the place value chart, I have a couple of problems I wanted to do. We're going to do this one, 482 minus 127. So my first step when using the place value chart is to start with this big number, the 482, and I'm going to be marking off, taking away 127 off of the place value chart. So I'm not going to put both of those numbers on there. I'm only putting this really big one. And when I'm putting this on here, I put 4 on the hundreds column, I put 8 in my tens, and 2 in my ones column. So each of these signifies the 482 when I look at it all together. When I'm doing my subtraction, I always want to start with taking away from the ones place. For this problem, we have an issue. We're supposed to take away 7 from the ones place, but we don't have 7 in the ones place. So what you have to do is you have to unbundle. So each of these in the tens column is worth 10 ones, because we know that 110 is equal to 10 ones cubes. So we're going to just put this circle here, put 10 little circles inside. So we traded in 110 for 10 ones. Now we can take away 7 from the ones place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We need to take away 2 from the tens. Now we can't count this one because that's the one that we unbundled, so it's not there anymore. So we're going to take away 2 tens, and we're going to take away 1 from the hundreds. If we count what is remaining on our place value chart, it'll tell us what the difference between those two numbers is. So we've got 3, 4, and 5, 5 in our ones, 5 in the tens, and 3 in the hundreds. So the value of 482 minus 127 is 355. I always want to check, and that's when I'll be using vertical way. So I'm going to use vertical way in order to check to see if my place value chart worked. This would tell me if I made a mistake. Sometimes these get really messy on your paper, and so it's always good to check with vertical way, especially because vertical way is pretty simple and quick in most cases. So 355 plus the 127. So we've got 12, carry up that 1, we've got 8 in our tens, and 4 in the hundreds place. So 182 matches with our original value of 182. So we know that our place value chart was correct, and our difference really is 355. The next thing that I want to talk about is using the open number line. So we can use the open number line to solve in 2 different ways. When using the open number line, we can count on or we can count back. First, we're going to start with counting backwards. So this is how you use the open number line in order to count back to solve an equation. So we're going to do 712 minus 225. Now, when I'm using an open number line to count back, your arrow and your bouncing is going to go backwards. If I was using it to count on, it would be starting at a random number and keep on counting upwards. So that can help you remember a little bit on where to place this beginning number. Because we're counting backwards 225, we're starting with the big number, the 712. And then we're going to break this number up, and what you should be thinking in your head is, how can I break apart this so that it's easier for me to subtract? So you already know about expanded form. So the expanded form of 225 would be 200 plus 20 plus 5. Now this is not something that you have to put on your paper, but it is something that you should be able to mentally think in your head. So here's where that mental math comes in. You should be thinking this in your head. So I'm going to just kind of, I don't know if I'm going to run out of space for that, but I'll leave it there for now just so you can have that memory. But 712, we're taking away the 2 from the hundreds place first. So minus 200. So remember, when I'm looking at this 200, I don't care about the tens place. I don't care about the ones place. I'm only saying, what is 700 minus 200. So that would leave 5 in my hundreds, and I'm keeping the 12. I didn't touch them. I took nothing away from that right now. I'm just going to leave it how it is. The next thing I want to do is take away 20. Now, you could look at this and say, oh, 51 tens minus 2 tens, I can do that in my head. I am going to just break it apart. Instead of doing 20, I'm going to take away 10, and then I'm going to take away 10 more. You can do whichever way that you choose and whichever way you're most comfortable with. So 512, take away a 10. So I'm not going to have this 10, it's going to be 0. So I've got, 502, and I took away a 10. And I need to take away a total of 2 tens. I'm taking away 20. So I'm going to do another bounce back of 10. So 502, take away 10 is 492. Now I've got to take away 5. 492, I'm going to do a small jump of 2. So again, I'm doing the break apart. I'm breaking apart the 5 into a 2 plus 5 because that's easier for me to think about. Maybe you're really good at counting back and saying, oh, well, I can just say, I know what 492 minus 5 is. For me, I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I don't want to make a mistake. So 490 is what we have over here for the difference. Now I need to take away 3. So 490 minus the 3 is 487. This is where I'm stopping. So a lot of times on your paper, you'll see this turn into an arrow where it's stopping at that number. I just like circling it. It's a little easier for me to visually see that. It makes me feel a little bit happier. So I started at the 712. I've subtracted 225. So 200, there's the 20, and then the 3 plus 2 is 5. So I made sure that I did that counting back. I made sure that this is all looking like it makes sense, and the difference is 487. Now, again, we want to check our work using vertical way. I am going to add these two numbers, 487 plus 225. And it should equal up to be 712. If it does not equal 712, then I've made a mistake. So 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry up my 1. 8 and 2 is 10, and 1 more is 11. And we've got 7 in our hundreds. So 712 is correct. Don't write this as your difference. That's just to make sure that it matches with your original value. So 487 is the right way. This was using open number line for counting backwards. We are going to continue with the open number line, but this time we're not going to count backwards. We're going to count on. So you can go ahead and start by putting an open number line on your paper. And counting on, meaning we're going to start at the smaller value and the lesser amount, and we're going to keep on counting up, 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 up until we get to the original number. For counting on, I have 284 minus 128 equals something. So counting on, I'm going to start at 128. This is where you're going to be adding until you get to this number. So over here, you should stop when you get to 284. The answer is going to be whatever that you have in here. If you added them all up, that'll tell you what number goes in this spot right here. So that's kind of where we're headed with this. And we're not going to leave that 284 here because we want to make sure we have plenty of room. So 128, I want to make sure that that's like an easy number for me to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that into, I'm going to add 2 and make that 130. Now I'm trying to get to 284. Whew, I got a little bit of ways to go for that one. I'm going to go ahead and add 100 because I know if I add 100 here, it will be 230. That's not going to be what I need, but it's getting me a lot closer to that value. Now I need to get from 30 in the tens place to 8 in the tens place. So I'm going to add 50. That'll bring me to 280. Now if I look at my ones place is supposed to have 4. So all I've got to do is add 4. That brings me to 284. That's going to be the correct answer that I wanted to have. Remember, we are trying to get to 284, and we're thinking, how many did we have to add? How many did we have to count onto until we got to the 284? So again, this is not what our answer is going to be. You have to look back, and when you add all of these values together, it'll tell you what the difference is. So 100, I like starting with the biggest one. So 154 plus 2, 156, is the difference between 284 and 128. Remember, we are adding vertical way in order to check to see if our answer is correct. So 156 plus 128, it should equal to be 284. We've got 14, we've got the 8, and then there's 2. So 284 is correct, so 156 is the right difference there. I am going to do another practice problem for the count on because it kind of gets to be a little bit confusing. So I just want to make sure you have plenty of a visual practice on that. All right, so next one for counting on, 653 minus 427 equals some magical number. Remember, open number line, we're just drawing out our arrow. We're going to start with this smaller number, 427, because we are counting on, so we're going to keep on counting up from there. So 427, we're trying to get to 653. Well, I really like trying to get to the next round number. You don't always have to start that way, so I'm going to show you what happens if you start with just adding the hundreds. All right, so 427, I'm trying to get to 653. If I add 200 to this, it's not going to go over that amount. So I'm going to go ahead and start with adding 200. Then that can get my hundreds place where it needs to be. So again, 427 plus 2 in the hundreds place is 600. We're keeping our 27. So we've got 627. I'm trying to get 5 in the tens place. Before I get too crazy, I know if I add 627, if I add 3 tens to that, which will give me 5 in the tens place, 657 will be too much, and then I'll have to do counting on and counting back. So what I want to do first is get to the next 10. So 627, I'm going to add the 3 now to get to 630, so I don't accidentally go over the amount that I'm trying to get to. That will make me crazy, and I don't want to have to think too hard on this. So 630, now I'm going to add 2 tens. So I'm adding 20. You could do a small 10 and a small another 10 if you wanted to, if you still need to practice that way. I'm going to go ahead and say 630 plus the 20 is 650. Now I need to add 3 to get to 653. Remember, 653 is not your final answer here. In order to find out what the difference is, you need to look back and say, what did I add in order to find the answer of 653 for that beginning part? So 220 plus 3, 223, add 3 more, 226 was what I added on my open number line in order to solve this problem. Remember, we're looking back, we have to add vertical way in order to figure out if our answer is correct. So 226 plus 427 should equal up to be 653. So we've got 3, carry up your 1, 5 in our 10, 653 does match with our original 653, so we know that we are correct. So that's the counting on version on the open number line. Remember, these are just different strategies. Based on whatever the problem is that you're solving, you can choose which strategy is easiest for you to solve.